What's your best Porg impression? How well can you imitate that noise? Whoa, that's pretty good.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name's Mike Royer.
And this is the Superhero Slate review for Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Finally, we are... this is 2 years in the making, I would say. Rogue One was a nice little appetizer in between our times, but this is the 2-year anniversary from when I had popcorn in my teeth, and it almost ruined The Force Awakens for me. So, Chris, this time I brought floss with me, and I didn't need it, but I was prepared for this movie. I wasn't going to let any popcorn get in my way because it's Star Wars. I'm definitely getting popcorn. I don't know if you went to, I think it was maybe AMC theaters that had these, but I saw some people getting like Star Wars, kind of like those popcorn tins.
So I think every theater chain had those because every theater around me had them, but the AMC did have them, yes. I did not get one because I was at a fan event, so they were giving out free stuff anyway.
Gotcha.
So you had to buy the tin, and then you also had to buy the popcorn with that. So they were just giving us free popcorn. So I was like, I don't need this tin.
What did your fan event entail?
So we got to see it at 6 p.m.
Nice.
In the IMAX. There was no reserved seating in the theater that always has reserved seating. Even the people who work there were like, we don't know what to do with this. So I got there at like 3 p.m. and got in line for this thing. I was the first in line for The Last Jedi, Mike.
Nice.
As you saw in my post. There you get there, you get these like oversized Topps trading cards, some free popcorn, and then there was a 15-minute documentary on the music of Star Wars with John Williams.
Oh, wow.
Showed before the movie started. And there were only 2 trailers, and we got to see it start probably an hour before everybody else did. So
yeah, I was going to say, with the time change, I was over here like the middle of the day, like just getting into it, and you're just like, oh, I'm already at the movie theater. I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Like, I just woke up, I felt like.
Yeah, I'm eating my lunch here, and Chris is in line for Star Wars. So. I haven't had the day off work, which coincided with that, and so everyone at work thought I was taking the day off work just for Star Wars. And so now that's the thing. I'm the big Star Wars guy at the office.
Well,
I mean, I'm already a Star Wars guy anyway, but I mean, I'd take a Marvel movie over a Star Wars movie, probably
That's just the way we are. This is the Superhero Slate with Star Wars related material.
That's why you have the lightsaber on the review episode cover, and I have the Mjolnir. So.
Yes, but the first thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to be giving everybody our initial thoughts, spoiler free, for the first couple minutes, and then I think heavily the majority of this episode is going to heavily delve into all of the nitty gritty of everything happened in this movie, because this is a dense movie. Movie was about 2.5 hours long. There's a whole lot going on. We got a brand new director this time around, and there's just too much going on out there in the world of social media. If you happen to listen to this in any sort of visual medium, the graphic for Star Wars The Last Jedi says right on the front of it, love it or hate it, because that is what I've seen all over the internet. I have seen the highest praises for this movie and the lowest lows, which is why I was really, really looking forward to talking to you about this movie to kind of see where you land on the spectrum. Just because I've never seen such a hotly contested movie. So I really want to know what you think. So Chris, lay it on me. It's been, I think, maybe 12 hours since we've seen this movie, maybe a little bit more. So we've had a
12 hours? You got out at 6 a.m.?
I don't know. I've lost track of time.
24 hours ago, I was walking into the theater. How about
that? There you go.
So Star Wars, we have not talked about this. This is the first time you're going to hear this from me.
Yeah, lay it on me, Chris. Spoiler free.
I had a really good time. I liked it. So there you go. I'm not gonna beat around the bush a little bit. I liked it. I am on that side of it. I have been following. We're not big proponents of Rotten Tomatoes here. We understand its use as an aggregator, and I lean more towards the critics on this. I had a good time. I think I've never been so surprised so many times in a movie, especially a Star Wars movie. And I really applaud it for taking an off the beaten path approach to this while growing the franchise and still, giving me a lot of good moments that shocked and enthralled me throughout this whole movie. I just can't. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not the best Star Wars movie, and Empire Strikes Back still holds that, but by golly, I like it a lot more than The Force Awakens.
Wow. All right. Well,
So-
I guess the best way I can just start this off is I thought The Force Awakens was much better than this movie.
Oh.
I don't think this movie is bad. I just think that there were some decisions made inside of this film by Rian Johnson that I just didn't quite agree with, that I think might be preference, but also I think just critically just would have made better sense to make some other decisions. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around this movie. Like I said, it's about 2.5 hours long. I felt like I really felt the length of this movie, which is not necessarily the best compliment to give a movie. I honestly thought when the theater was going to be done rolling, it was going to be like midnight, but we got out around 10:30. So I felt like there's a little bit in this movie that could have been cut out to maybe make it feel a little snappier. I have a lot of questions leaving this movie. It seemed like Rian Johnson decided to make his own Star Wars movies, which is exactly what you should do when you're directing a franchise film. You want to make it your own. We talk about a lot of that on this show, like when a director gets its own Marvel movie or when a director gets its own Warner Brothers movie. Hopefully Warner Brothers will make them make it their own. So, but I felt like in the attempts to do that, there were some things left behind in The Force Awakens that wasn't answered, unfortunately, which was kind of a bummer. So I am still trying to craft my opinion about this movie, and I've seen a lot of similar people say the same things, and that they feel like they need to see the movie one more time, at least a second time, to kind of wrap their head around it. So I think that's where I'm at right now. Is I don't think it's a bad movie. I didn't come out of it angry or disappointed. There were some really beautiful shots in the movie, some awesome practical effects, some awesome special effects, some amazing performances from Adam Driver and Mark Hamill. Like, holy cow. I would see this movie 1,000 times just for the two of them, even if the rest of the movie was the worst, which it's not. So I think there's lots of awesome things in the movie and also a lot of not so awesome things in the movie. So I guess I kind of just like fall in the middle between the love it or hate it scale, which it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's just, I don't know. I think the only thing I can do right now, Chris, is just talk to you about this for a while and just see how this all shakes out at the end. And maybe I'll have a more clear view of this movie.
Yeah, that tends to work. I agree. This is going to be the most divisive Star Wars movie probably to date. It is. I mean, I think we can both agree it's better than any of the prequels.
Oh yeah, for sure.
by a long shot. So, if you have to do 4, 5, 6, or 7, I mean, I think a lot of people who have complaints about this movie also would have complaints about watching 4 or 5. Like you can't say that about this movie and not have it not apply to 4 and 5. Like Empire, like your criticisms for this movie are the exact same problems that Empire has. Or A New Hope would have, and they're not perfect films in the scope of the world. In terms of length, Empire to me is a very long movie, but so I don't know. But when we talk about spoilers here in a minute, Mike, there is a scene in this movie that resonates with me to this moment as a filmmaker that I've never seen done. And I absolutely love it, and I can't say enough good things about this scene, and when we talk about spoilers, you'll know. But I get it. I think a lot of people have taken Star Wars upon themselves, and this movie doesn't do that. This movie creates, like, it just keeps going with Star Wars in its own thing, and you have to let go of a lot of what you thought was going to happen and projecting onto it, because this movie breaks a lot of expectations, and like like you mentioned, doesn't answer some questions, but that's okay. And we've got one more movie to I guess not wrap the trilogy up, but maybe wrap it up. I don't know. We don't know. So Yeah, is it time for spoilers?
Yeah, I think we just
it's
need
so hard to not say anything. Like, everyone wants to know. Like, and they ask me, I'm like, I'm not telling you anything unless you've seen it. Like, I'm not talking about it until we watch the movie. So
yeah, let's do it. Let's just jump right into spoilers. I got to talk about this. I got to talk about all of these things. So I was telling you just before we started recording this that I'm kind of organizing my thoughts here based on pros, cons, and questions. So I just want to go ahead and talk about my most favorite thing in the movie, if that is the best way to eloquently say that. It is by far the light speed kamikaze into that Imperial ship. Or the fleet, I guess to say.
So this is what I was talking about. This is what I consider... Star Wars has always been a good-looking movie, by far. This is the moment Star Wars went beautiful in film.
Yeah.
Not only is it impactful, like I was talking with friend of the show, Brian from Comic UI. He's like, I would love to just record the audience, the immediate hush of the crowd.
Oh wow!
The moment that happens, because they cut all sound in the movie as well.
Yeah, what a just amazing decision, because I feel like there's another filmmaker out there that just would have taken upon himself to do the exact same scene with just the most amount of explosions physically possible rendered on any given like machine out there, of just like, I gotta see every beam and every girder being destroyed on it was Snoke's ship, correct?
Yeah, it was Snoke's, I guess his big ship, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just amazing and beautiful, and the moment was just held. I'm not sure if it went black and white, but it was
close.
It did definitely hit that two-tone, and like just, wow, yeah, like you said, the hush that went over the audience was just like...
And the thing is, it's amazing. Not even close-ups of it. It's very, very far away shots of this happening, and I don't know, the way it was handled is probably the best moment to me in any Star Wars movie to date. And people will be talking about it. If you like the movie or hate the movie, that scene will be loved by everybody for years to come.
Yeah, exactly. When you talk about the pantheon of Star Wars in the next 10, 20, 30 years, however many more movies are created after that, this scene has just got to be in like the top 10 of just the coolest things I've ever seen. So that's off the bat pro. I just wanted to get that right out there. But also at the same time, to kind of highlight some of the cons I felt this movie had, was that beautiful moment I felt like would have had a little bit more payoff if Leia was the one piloting the ship.
So I'm gonna prevent you from doing a lot of this because you're projecting what you thought you wanted on this movie.
No, I don't think that's it at all.
I think everyone's like, well, Leia should have died, or Luke shouldn't have died. Well, that's not anyone's calls to make of who and who shouldn't have died. I applaud them. I thought they killed Leia 5 fucking minutes into this movie. Like, the second they blew her out the airlock, I'm like, oh my god, is this how they fixed it? Like, is this how they got rid of her? Like, they're not just gonna leave us hanging with this, right? Thankfully that's not the case, but I applaud them for not changing the movie to get rid of Leia just because Carrie Fisher passed away in real life. How they're gonna handle that for the future is, a story for another day, but at least they didn't change it to say, hey, she's dead in real life, we have to kill her in the movie.
Well, yeah, but that's one thing that I'm really curious about, because they have gone ahead and I think they've guaranteed that they're not going to be doing any sort of CG recreation on her for the movies going forward. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in our normal news shows we've talked about this.
As far as we know, last news cycle, probably not.
Yeah,
the film has changed directors. We may see something different based on some feedback from this movie. I mean, a lot can change in 2 years, but I don't think they will be using her as much now.
Yeah, it's just like we had such a monumental ending for Luke, and I'm sure we'll talk about that here momentarily. But I felt like we never got our conclusive end for Leia in this movie. Now, I get it. There might have been a whole story where maybe she is supposed to be lost in the third movie, like we lose a hero each movie, Han in the first movie, Luke in the second, Leia in the third. And maybe they wanted to do like an even spread out the death of our heroes a little bit more. But I don't think they can just avoid the fact that everybody know that we lost Carrie Fisher this year. So I thought it just would have been like a spectacular send-off for her character to sacrifice herself for her resistance, like with that most amazing, beautiful shot that we just saw, because Holdo was just a very bizarre character that kind of redeemed herself at the end, but then she had this really kind of dumb solution to not tell Poe, who was basically running amok on her ship, about this plan. It's just like, lady, if you just would have fessed up and told Poe what your plan was, he probably just would have settled down and not literally mutinied your ship. And the whole mutiny subplot, it's just really hard for me to accept, because I like that Poe was kind of just taking matters into his own hands, because he thinks everything around him is crumbling. He's trying to save everyone around him, so he thinks he's being the hero, so he decides to do a mutiny. And then all of a sudden Holdo decides to shoot one of the people that are mutinying her. I believe she actually took a blast at one of those people. I don't know if it was
a stun. It was a stun.
Yeah, so it was just like, lady, you could have avoided all of this if you just told this dude something, anything. We never really got any clear reasoning why she withheld that information. I felt like we just decided, let's just not tell Poe so we have something for him to do in the middle of this movie.
So there are two reasons I think they didn't do it, and this could have been cut. But first off, I don't think we should kill Carrie Fisher in the movie because she died in real life. That's how I'm going to end that conversation with that one. Like, just because they die in real life, we don't have to kill them in the movie. As for this, they have a stormtrooper on the ship who says he defected, and then they're somehow tracking him through light speed. They might want to compartmentalize that information a little bit more, especially with Poe being so closely related to Finn. They probably didn't explain it, but that was my impression I got. Like, everyone's like, oh, you're Finn, you defected, but you're kind of sketchy because Rose did taser him in the thing.
That moment must have been extraordinarily fleeting, or I just blinked, or I went momentarily deaf or something, because I feel like I never heard that line. I don't know if it was said
explicitly, but that was my impression. Like they're tracking the ship, and although they're saying like, oh, that's some sort of technical thing that this pipe worker just somehow knew about off the top of her head. Rose is probably my least favorite character, is what I'm going to say to begin with, because she's all over the fucking place. But I mean, I get why it was there. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you have a stormtrooper, and then also they're tracking through light speed. What if there is a leak in the resistance? You never know. And there was the Benicio Del Toro's character who may have, who sold people out as well.
Oh, Benicio Del Toro. We will get to you
the
here momentarily. But you were talking about Rose, and I thought Rose's sister had a pretty amazing role at the beginning of the movie. I really loved that bombing run on the Dreadnought, because holy crap, I wasn't expecting to see a Dreadnought. I don't know about you, but I thought that was pretty intimidating. I was like, oh, holy crap, a giant, basically Star Destroyer just showing up out of nowhere, just having these giant cannons. And then I kind of liked how the Resistance, their plan was just like, we just got to get these really slow-moving bombers over the top of the Dreadnought, and we got it. But the problem is everyone's going to die probably just to get these bombers overhead. So I thought that was really cool. And her sister, I love that moment of tension of her banging on the ladder to get that thing to fall down. I was like, this is a really great way to start the movie.
Did you think she was going to use the Force to pull the thing to her?
No, I actually didn't at all. It never popped in my head.
Because she had like her hand stretched out, and I'm like, oh no. Not everyone's a Force user, are they? No, but I mean, that's one of those situations where, like, they blew up that ship and they showed us every fucking explosion on that ship. Like, that's the opposite of the light speed, I guess, explosion, which was still cool. Like, that starting off with a space battle and a runaway, like, that I thought that was a very interesting choice. How did you feel, like, so in that moment? So there are two things about this movie. The rebels are always losing. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't feel any hope. Like, I'm like, at any moment, any of these people could die at this, like, in this movie, because, like, they felt like they were losing every second of the way. Mm-hmm. But how did you feel about, like, Poe's, like, there was a bunch of, like, kind of slapstick comedy scenes?
Yeah, so
like, I know that's a modern thing. Like, there's not that many in the older Star Wars. It's more of a modern movie kind of thing. But he put Hux on the phone. It was like, I'm waiting for Hux. And they did this little shtick for who's on first for 2 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you brought that up. So this is something that definitely is falling under my cons. And if you listen to our Thor Ragnarok review, this is definitely something that crops up in there a little bit. Is there's some sort of trend that's happening in Hollywood now when it comes to humor. It's almost just like if the audience isn't laughing, they're not enjoying the movie, and that's not true. I feel like there's a lot of tense moments in this movie and a lot of really emotional moments that are just totally undercut, and they pull the rug out from under us with some sort of weird, bizarre joke. So I thought it was super awesome that Poe shows up one-on-one with this X-Wing. We know he's like one of the best.
One on like a million.
Yeah, we know he's like the best pilot in the galaxy. We saw that in The Force Awakens. We, the movie's just starting. We're all super still jazzed on seeing the Star Wars crawl and the Lucasfilm glittering insignia at the beginning. And then just all of this tension just like that gone because he's making kind of like a weird childlike joke. Now I saw some people kind of defending this, saying that, when Poe met Kylo Ren at the beginning of The Force Awakens, he goes, who talks first? You talk first or we talk first? It's like, yeah, but comedy's all about timing. That moment was there and gone very quickly, and it always was very ominous, dark, and Kylo Ren, he was very intimidating. Here it felt very weird and slapsticky, and there's other moments in the movie where that humor happens as well. And some people are saying, this is like the Marvel humor trickling in the Star Wars. And I was like, it's kind of unfortunate because the Marvel humor makes sense in the Marvel universe. I don't think it needs to trickle into our Star Wars.
Well, I don't think it's Marvel humor. I just think it's filmmaking as a whole. Like any movie you have now lightens, they have to have some sort of break in the tension and darkness with a moment of levity, because nobody wants to go watch a movie where they just feel miserable the whole time anymore, and you got to keep people's attention. So to me, the intro one's not so much, but they sprinkle this out, and it like you mentioned, it changes the tonality of the scenes a little bit, and I saw it a lot more with like Luke Skywalker. Had a lot more of it than I thought he would. Mind you, he's been exiled for however many years on this weird planet with these little caretakers. So, he may be going a little leaning into the Yoda of Empire, but he didn't lean far enough into it.
Yeah, so if we got to go ahead and jump onto Luke on his little Jedi island, I have very mixed feelings about that portion of Luke. I thought half of it really worked because I was like, oh yeah, I totally feel this kind of like outsider Yoda-ness coming from him. He's being kind of quirky, doing what he wants. Like, surprisingly, I feel like I'm the only person on the internet that wasn't totally turned off by him milking that weird sea creature. I thought
green milk. It's a new trend.
Yeah, I just thought it was I thought it was bizarre, but I was just like, I guess this is just what happens when you move to an island by yourself. You just get by however you can. And I've always kind of really appreciated the quirky creatures and animals in Star Wars, especially when they're somewhat practical. So to me, I was just happy to see something, a really weird creature design. I guess Luke had to milk it, so go ahead and milk it, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to live somehow, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but the weird thing that I did not like, I guess not weird, but so I watched The Force Awakens just a few days before I went and saw this movie, and it was the first time I had seen it at home on home video, and it'd been a while since I revisited it. And it was just really nice to go back and feel kind of the wonderful moments that I loved in The Force Awakens. And I love the way The Force Awakens ends, just with that aerial shot flying around Luke on the island with Rey just holding out this lightsaber. And for the whole 2 years, we're just waiting to see what happens. She's just holding this out like, I have found you. I have found the most powerful, possibly one of the last Jedis on the planet that can ever train me. He's the key to everything. The whole first movie revolved around finding a map just to find you. And just before the credits roll, we have no idea what's happened. We left on a cliffhanger. And then what happens as soon as we come back to Luke? He takes a lightsaber, he chucks it behind him, and the whole audience laughs. that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to laugh at that moment.
You're projecting yet again, Mike. Like, you're saying, like, this is what I wanted from Star Wars.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what they put on the audience. If you leave the first Star Wars movie to come back in years and you leave it on this whole cliffhanger of finally revealing Luke, we haven't even seen Mark Hamill as a Jedi on screen, and God knows how long. I don't remember. I can't do the math in my head right now. But we finally see him in this tense moment, and he sees his lightsaber again for the first time. That's an amazing moment of tension that we end the movie on. And I don't understand why we just can't get some payoff with that instead of just chucking the lightsaber and just making like do. I don't want this anymore.
You're building your own payoff in your head that's not there. Like they knew what they were going to do with Luke before this happened. They have these movies planned out. You can't expect him to like, oh, this is some sort of reverent moment here. It might be for us, but it's not in the movie. It's not for him. He's like, I lost my hand. I found out my father was the most evil person in the galaxy. I wouldn't want to see that thing either. And like, who are you? You're not supposed to find me.
Well, yeah, I get that, but there's a way to do that without comically chucking it behind you.
I mean, he could. I mean, because I didn't laugh nearly as much as everybody else did. I don't think it was that funny. I mean, he's just like, I don't care. Like, the nonchalantness is what I picked up from that scene. Like, it's not like, oh, well, chuck it and push you over the edge because I'm a funny old man. He's like, I just don't care.
Well, I mean, I'll push back on the fact that we think that we know where Luke is supposed to go this entire trilogy, as I don't think that's entirely true. There's like a big quote that's been floating around from Mark Hamill just like the last 24 hours that I had never seen before, but it's resurfacing now that a lot of people have questions about Luke's character, where in an interview he said that he personally did not like the decisions that Rian Johnson made for Luke's character, but Mark Hamill is a goddamn professional, and he knew that he was going to do the best he could to execute Rian Johnson's vision. So
who is Mark Hamill to say what Luke Skywalker is going to do? He may have played the role, but he is not the story maker of Luke Skywalker.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying I don't think Luke's fate has been telegraphed as far future as you think it has. I think Rian Johnson had a lot of control on what exactly was going to be happening to Luke. So I don't think like just the Disney CEO and board of directors like sat down after they bought Lucasfilm and just like, okay, no, Luke is going to do this. I think it's very much Rian Johnson's decision. So
I don't think so. I think that when they sit down, like, we have to make 3 movies. Here's the first movie overview, second and third with Lucasfilm. They definitely knew what they were going to be doing. Like, again, I think they had I agree with you that the 3 movies, someone was going to die in each movie, is what I've always said. And this one was supposed to be Luke's, and then Carrie Fisher, Leia was supposed to be the third one. They may have to tweak that. Like, the last one may get tweaked a little bit, but I think they knew what they were, like, broad strokes. Luke is almost the Yoda character of this. He is the crazy, like, seemingly crazy hermit who doesn't want anything to do with, with outsiders. He's here. He doesn't want people coming and bother him. He made a bad decision. He has to live with creating the most evil person in the galaxy, or I guess second most, who then killed the most.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. I like the direction that they took with Luke's character. I'm just talking about specific scenes here.
Oh, well, maybe, but I mean, I took it as like Luke is just so he doesn't want to deal with that life anymore. Like, I'm not the hero you thought I was. Could have probably been handled in a little better way, yes, but it's not like, I don't think he's like doing it for slapstick comedy. He just threw it over because like, I don't want this anymore. Like, this is not for me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying there's going to be other moments in this movie where stuff like that crops up, and it gets a little tiring for me after a while. It's just like, just let me feel a moment, Star Wars. Just let me feel a moment when you give it to me on screen.
I mean, I agree. There are sprinklings of this, and it's more sprinklings than like wholly like. To think of an example, Thor: The Dark World, where a death is punctuated by a joke. Like one of them, I think, is when Rey cuts the rock with the lightsaber, and like she's like, I don't know, just channeling lightsaber fighting, and it falls on those little caretakers. I'm like, well, we didn't need to see the rock fall on the caretakers. Like that ruins that punctuation that she is more powerful innately than anyone ever thought she was.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw a pro on you, Chris, since we're here talking about the island. You want to know what a pro is? There was, I thought, minimal Porg. For as much Porg fever as there was over the last couple months with these trailers, and I saw Porg toys, Legos, just everywhere out the butt, I thought the moments where we saw the Porgs, they were they were used very well. Like, it was just kind of a slight little bit of humor, some interaction with Chewie. I actually had to run to the bathroom, and I had to pick my moment. And my moment happened when I came back. My wife told me, it's like, oh, you missed a moment where like Chewie was trying to get the Porgs off of his dashboard or something in the Millennium Falcon. I was like, oh wow, that actually sounded funny. I wish I didn't miss that. So I thought they cleverly used the Porgs well. But the amount that they were showing them out there, I almost thought the Porg was going to be the one that hacked that walker instead of BB-8 and like murdered a bunch of people. I was like, they're really building up the Porgs in this marketing.
Well, I think the marketing is a lot like the Baby Groot marketing of Guardians too. He was literally everywhere, but he wasn't in the movie. Like, he didn't affect the movie that much, you know? Like, he was in there just enough, but, like, they definitely merchandised the shit out of him. Because they were like, we can make small things, little fluffy things, and they squeak, and they look like Furbies, and they got big sad eyes. People with cats will probably assume that this is like their cat. I'm one of those people. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, the Porg thing's a big controversy that I think was blown out of proportion. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, it was blown out of Porg portion, if you will.
Porg portion.
Portion. So now I got to ask what you thought. I mean, that's the fun side. The dark side. What do you think about Snoke?
Snoke. All right, here we go, Chris. Snoke, you want to know where Snoke falls under my list? He falls under cons and he falls under questions.
Okay.
So I think the biggest one here is who the hell is Snoke? I mean, we've talked about. I actually do kind of care still. I mean, I know he's been dispatched, but we talked about Snoke quite a bit in our normal news episodes, just trying to figure out what he's like. I don't think we went as deep as a lot of the theorists out there trying to figure out all the little nitty-gritty things about him, but I was really curious, like, was he actually tall? Was he short? What's the deal with the hologram? Like, what makes him so powerful? What's his past? Like, what makes him a bad guy? So why I want to know more about Snoke is because when he died, I didn't really give a shit. I was just like, okay, he's a bad guy and he got killed, but I don't care that he died. He died in a really cool way, which segued into an amazing fight scene, which is under my pros list for sure. Yeah. But I didn't really feel the weight of him dying. Like, I was surprised that a lot of people like clapped and cheered when Snoke died in my theater, and I was just kind of like, why are you clapping and cheering? You barely know who Snoke is. You saw him for like a minute or two in the last movie, and he's had a little bit more screen time here. We get to see his fleshy face, but like, so you usually cheer for somebody when you don't.
Do you care about the Emperor when he dies?
Well, I mean, the Emperor is kind of built up a little bit more, and he's the one pulling the strings.
Not in the original movies. Emperor has maybe a minute more screen time than Snoke does in the original trilogy.
Well, I feel like we know a little bit more about the Emperor, I guess not from the prequels.
No, I mean, if you take the trilogies as a whole, and you know the prequels weren't out whenever the originals came out, I mean, Palpatine had the same amount of time overall. I mean, he essentially mirrors Palpatine's rise and fall in the movies one movie earlier than what he was in the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just kind of strange because I do like how they subverted the trope and killed Snoke just kind of very cleverly in the second movie. I think almost everybody out there was expecting Snoke to be a guy that at least dies at the end of the second movie, but more than likely dies in the third movie. So I was surprised, but also I didn't really feel the weight of it. One thing that I really would have enjoyed in that scene, which I think would have just maybe really helped me, is we all know Snoke was playing Kylo Ren from the very beginning, just using him as a tool, didn't really care much about his future, just constantly toying with his emotions. But I only ever felt the anger from Kylo Ren when it was directed towards the people that was getting in the way. He always still seemed to be on Snoke's side. I think it would have been great to see a moment where like maybe Snoke actually reached out and like striked Kylo. Maybe just like physically just got into his space, or maybe used the Force, or maybe like Snoke in some way like did something to his scars. I don't know. I just felt like we never really got any sort of close interaction between Snoke and Kylo. So when Kylo decided to dispatch Snoke, I was kind of hoping for like, well, why exactly is this the moment where he does it,
Well, it's one of those things where he pokes at Kylo's nerves, and that's probably more real than if he slapped him or hit him with some sort of force lightning. I think because he's like, you aren't the person we were promised. You're not Vader, and that's all Kylo wanted to be, was the next Vader. And he plays on that broken psyche a lot. Like he plays him like Kylo like a fiddle the whole time. But then he's still conflicted because he's not Kylo. Like I don't know, I don't get the connection between the two. That made me think they were related. In reality, they weren't, because they had that Luke and Leia. So I'm not sure I'm sold on that connection where they can like talk to each other. Like someone said, it was like the Force FaceTime. For each other. But at the same time, I get we're not supposed to feel the weight when Snoke dies. We're supposed to feel the weight when Kylo Ren stays evil and stays on the dark side and does not come to the light side. So we now have this built up where like he is in charge of the First Order, and Rey is in charge of the Resistance. Like those are their two big weapons that will come to blows, and that's where I felt the way. It was like when they pulled the lightsaber apart because they both can't stand on the same level. So
yeah,
that was where I felt that more so than Snoke dying.
Yeah, I really liked Kylo's motivation through the movie of just like. He's basically saying like fuck the past, kill it. You know, I thought that worked really well for him. Like he doesn't need some sort of grandiose plan or just anything overcomplicated. It's just like he just hates everything in his past so much that he is just going to take it to the extreme and just evaporate everything. Screw the Resistance, screw the Empire. He just wants to see it all burn, which I think works really, really well for just like your big bad villain. And I almost thought they were going to turn him there for a second. But like when they're in that really awesome throne room fight, which was really amazing and choreographed very, very well, I started to think to myself, well, he can't turn. Because if he turns, who's left to fight in this movie? Like, there's no third movie if they turn him right now. So, so it was a little less surprising when he stayed evil, but it was the right decision.
Right. Well, I think a Kylo Ren-led First Order in the last movie is going to be different than a Snoke-led First Order. Because Kylo Ren is obviously very much impulsive and reactionary. Such as when he saw Luke Skywalker on the planet Crate, he was like, fire all your guns on this son of a bitch right here, like obliterate him, and like, everyone's like, okay, that's enough, do you think you got him, kind of thing. So yeah, I think he's going to whittle down the First Order from the inside, tracking these rebels down now, and Rey to end them, whereas Snoke was like, I'm playing the long game here, like I don't have to worry about the little stuff doesn't bother me, I'm playing the long game.
Yeah, do you think in the next movie maybe the Knights of Ren might get a chance to show up? Because I don't know who the fuck the Knights of Ren are, but apparently they're supposed to be a thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they did tease those very much in the first one, and with Abrams returning, he might have the ability to answer a lot of those questions from 7 in 9 that maybe he left lingering a little bit, and with Snoke and his little guards out of the way, who got dispatched so cool. Like, I mean, the lightsaber through the face hole was pretty awesome. Yeah,
it was like that. I feel like we got to explore a lot of things about the lightsaber in general inside of that fight. I've always kind of just wanted to see what would happen if someone just turned on a lightsaber just for a second. Like, why is it always got to be a sword? Why can't you just kind of use it as like a little laser beam? So just them turning it on for a second, that was really badass. And I thought them kind of force pulling that one lightsaber was really fucking cool. Yeah. And seeing like what happens when you put all of this power into one weapon and then it just kind of splits and explodes. I was like, that's really cool. That's the kind of expanding lore that I really like to see, because I feel like you only ever see those things in like a one-off cartoon or a comic book or something like that. So I was just like, yeah, show it to me. That's like really cool. So I like that Ren is kind of left with this lightsaber broken now. It's like, oh, maybe we're going to get to see her like maybe make her own lightsaber, or maybe track down like another Jedi temple to try to learn how to make it. I guess she still has all of those Jedi books in the Falcon, right? At the very end of the movie.
She does have the books, and she kept the blade, but also in Luke's cave is the red lightsaber crystal from Darth Vader. I don't know if you saw that hanging, but it was on one of the things when we first went to him.
No, I didn't see it.
So yeah, I don't know. We might see her. It might pull a Return of the Jedi where Luke just showed up with a new green one, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
But speaking of characters, Captain Phasma got the short stick yet again, and probably for the last time.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Phasma is done falling into that fiery pit. I had one strong moment when I was watching this movie thinking, this would be an amazing 10-episode HBO series, because there is so much stuffed into this 2.5-hour movie that I want to explore so much more of, that I felt like, what if we just had like a whole hour-long episode where we're following Captain Phasma? We learn a little bit about her past. We learn why she's a bad guy. As far as we know, like, there's no reason to have such a grudge against her. She's just a fancy-looking stormtrooper. I know that they kind of alluded in The Force Awakens that, you know, she may have been the commander that lorded over Finn, that maybe she was the one that took Finn from his family and raised him and taught him to, like, kill people, but we never saw any of that directly. So to have such a big triumphant battle between Finn and Captain Phasma, I didn't really feel much of the weight of it. I was just like, it's cool to see Captain Phasma doing something a little bit more and just not being thrown down a garbage chute.
No, she was thrown down a fiery pit instead of a ship that kind of almost got blown up. Yeah, she was wasted. That was kind of rough. I didn't really care much for the Canto Bite, I guess, subplot.
What is the Canto Bite?
The Canto Bite is the gambling casino.
Oh, I have it earmarked as Casino Planet because I didn't remember the names of really anything in this. But
well, because I don't know, is this DJ character the one they were supposed to find, or did they not find the right guy, or what? Why did this guy happen to have all the skills they were looking for?
Yeah,
in that thing, I thought they were gonna show something later, like, oh yeah, that's the guy you're supposed to get because he had like a tattoo or something.
So, did you think that Benicio Del Toro, before they revealed him, did you think he was going to be like a callback or an Easter egg or something?
No.
I totally thought it was going to be Lando. I was like, that's going to be Lando. They're going to show Lando come out from around there. But it wasn't, even though we knew Lando wasn't supposed to be in this movie. But I was like, isn't Lando? Billy D. Williams is kind of old now, so I don't know.
I would have like made him like some like old guy at the casino gambling, like. Because that's how he won the Millennium Falcon. Like, he just spends his old time in his old age gambling.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But yeah, the Casino Planet is, I think, objectively, whether you're a critic or a fan, I think everybody can agree that it's got to be the weakest part of the film.
It's the slowest part for sure.
Yeah, and we know the whole Casino Planet is set up because Maz Kanata, they get her on the
I didn't like that either.
Yeah, they get her on the Resistance FaceTime, as you like to say.
Yeah,
and she is very, very specific with her order. She said there is one person in the galaxy that can beat this encryption. One person. He is your only shot to do this because they are trying to let the audience know it is going to be so impossible to make it inside of Snoke's bedroom, as DJ says later in the movie. So once we actually see the dude with that rose pin, like, this dude's got to be a big deal. They're going to have to do some sort of wheeling and dealing to convince him. And then, nope, he's not the guy. We're just going to take the random Benicio Del Toro that's happened coincidentally to be sleeping in our cell. And yeah, he says he can do it too. So what happened to Maz's orders of just like, this is impossible unless you have this one key? Like, no, here's just another dirty key on the ground. This will work, right? Because the key happens to be by us. So yeah, I thought that was just so weak.
Well, it happened to be by them in the same place they were told to get the other guy. I thought it was going to be revealed that he lost, like, you know, he lost that thing after being thrown in jail. Like, this was really the guy, but like, you don't know it.
Chris, that is a great idea, and I felt like that could be something that would have been very easy to put in the movie. You know, that could have just been one quick scene where he just lost it gambling or something.
I don't think he's done. We didn't see him die, and he ran off with all the money. So I don't know when he's going to come back into play, but I think he'll be back in the next movie.
Yeah, it seems like he took a very interesting stab at the character to have a little bit of a stutter, kind of a little bit of a nonchalant
he only had a stutter when he wasn't working on stuff. I noticed. Mm-hmm. I thought it was an interesting take. I'll give him that. Like, of all the characters you could have chosen, he wasn't some like guy in the chair at the computer hacking on stuff.
Yeah, he just wasn't, Benicio Del Toro just in a costume. So
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really mind that, but the casino planet kind of ends in this weird animal-esque pod racing chase with weird foxes, horses instead. And
Yeah,
I guess
that's how
that
the movie ended as well on this planet. I get the children are being like sparked to rebel, but he also held his broom up like a lightsaber. Is that what everyone was saying? And I was I don't quite get it.
Well, I saw some people asking this online because they weren't sure, and it looks like it's been confirmed through a lot of people I've seen. But he grabs that broom using the Force at the very end. I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah, it's very brief. He holds his hand up to the broom and just a couple inches away, and he uses the power of the Force to bring the broom to him. So that's supposed to be our moment at the end of the movie to go, oh, okay, there are more Jedis out there being born. And I thought
Force users.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird balance that this movie is trying to take, where they're beating us over the head that this is called The Last Jedi. The Jedi are going extinct. They should go extinct. They shouldn't go extinct. Rey and Luke are the last Jedi. Kylo's on the dark side over there. He still technically could be a Jedi. We don't really know what's going on. We think there's just a handful of them left. But also, it's the Force seems to be very organic, like Luke says, and it's impossible for it to go away. Like, even maybe just before it gets snuffed out, the Force will ultimately come back no matter what and take hold of some younger kids or, what have you. So I guess maybe that's where this movie is going into the future. Maybe there's going to be some sort of drastic time jump between the second one and third one. So maybe some of these younger Jedi can be trained, possibly.
I don't know, because he did say that the Jedi was a stupid religion. I don't know if that's the first time we've heard it directly referred to as a religion, rather than like something else. So I thought that was very interesting. So Rey could, create new Force users who definitely are some form of Jedi, but definitely not along the same lines of that corruption that he hinted at was happening in the prequel movies.
Yeah, maybe instead of a Jedi Council, I do kind of like the mythos that Luke was subscribing to, where he was just like, it's the Jedi that made Darth Vader and made the rise of Dark Sidious. He was just like, he's being very pragmatic about it, which felt very natural for somebody that just had almost had to kill one of his Padawans.
Well,
basically.
but also at the same time, Luke talked to Yoda in this movie, and we haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah, talk about Yoda. That was a big surprise. I like these Star Wars movies when they surprise me, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, look, it's that thing that you like. Clap.
Well, it doesn't subscribe to all the Star Wars tropes that all the other movies have used. So, yeah, I agree. I love the surprises. Yoda, go on, Mike.
Yoda being practical. Talk about an amazing decision to go with. It just felt like we're seeing the Yoda that we saw from the original trilogy. He's just been CG'd jumping up on walls, flipping around with his little stubby lightsaber. So just seeing him being a puppet again and seeing Frank Oz in the credits, man, that was so cool to just see him being kind of goofy and wacky and poking around and making fun of Luke. It's that is Yoda. That is Yoda for sure. Just him being kooky and crazy, and you can kind of see I like when Luke kind of lets his barriers down. Like when he's on the Millennium Falcon and he sees R2 again, he gets kind of a little excited and chipper. Or when he sees Yoda, he just kind of reverts to a dumb kid again, and Yoda's just schooling him. So I love seeing that moment come back from when we first knew to love Luke back in the original trilogy.
I agree, and I think Yoda was an interesting choice. Everyone's like, oh, it should have been Ben. Well, first off, the actor who played Ben Kenobi as we last saw him is dead. They should not CGI another character into Star Wars after seeing Tarkin in Rogue One. So, but Yoda is also the one who taught him how to become a Jedi.
Yeah,
Ben
I never
pushed
thought
him
it should
along
have
the
been.
road, but Yoda was the beginning factor, and at the end, he's like, you got to keep this going on, bro. You may not like it, but something's got to happen. We need a good person on our side.
Yeah, I did like Yoda's just idea to just thunderbolt the tree. He was just like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. I'm dead. I've gotten a little bit more perspective here on this side of the plane of existence. Yeah, just blow up this tree. I feel like Yoda was just trying to tell Luke, just chill out, man. Just relax. You're taking everything way too seriously.
He's like, oh, you think those books are still in there? Well, I'll burn it before you realize Rey stole them and took them with her.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed that Yoda moment. I like the little little precious moment we had in the Falcon when we got to see R2 project that message again. It was just like, yeah, that's what Star Wars is all about. Just that original mission of just Luke trying to be the hero that it was. Like that first Star Wars movie is A New Hope, I guess, as it's titled now. It's a very just simple, straightforward hero's journey. So it's just kind of nice to see Luke kind of reflect on that once again.
Yeah, and when he thought he was the Last Jedi, like when Ben thought he was the Last Jedi and passed it on to Luke to learn, just like kind of like this. With Luke dying at the end, with the two sons there, a lot of people I see are kind of up in arms over it. I'm not too offended by how he went out. Like I get it. Like he had to go somehow in his last reconnection with the Force, projecting himself across the galaxy on this other planet to fight to best Kylo Ren in a lightsaber duel, pretty much.
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings. I'm not saying what they did was the wrong decision. I just felt like maybe it wasn't the most film worthy scene, I guess. Like, so the one thing I was waiting for in this whole movie was to see Luke finally cut loose, you know. He is theoretically the strongest Jedi out there in the galaxy. He's been training ever since he found out he had the Force, ever since he left Tatooine, training other Jedis out there. He's been going through so much, but he's just like, I felt like he was going to be this amazing force to be reckoned with at some point in this movie, or maybe even the third movie, when I thought he might have made it until then. So when he shows up at the end of the movie in front of all of those walkers and in front of Kylo Ren's ship, I was just like thinking, holy crap, shit is about to go down. And you know what I thought of in my head? I thought of that Gengi Tartakovsky Clone Wars cartoon where we got to see Mace Windu literally like use the Force to like pull down and throw around ships. And I was just like, holy crap, are we finally about to see that in live action on the real screen? I thought Luke was just going to go ham, go nuts, and at least I knew it wouldn't be realistic for me to think he could destroy that whole fleet in front of him, but I thought he could at least cause some collateral damage, which would do the exact same thing of killing time. So when he ended up just being a Force ghost, I was just like, oh, that's actually really clever. You know, the audience clapped when they saw what happened, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But I was just like, man, was I hoping for some just bombastic, badass Jedi fighting action that I didn't get, which kind of sucked. But, you know, I guess it's just preference there.
You're right. Again, but also Luke has never been a Jedi fighter. We've never seen him really do any fighting.
Well,
we had back on it.
Well, we hadn't seen him in like 40 years. I thought maybe over 40 years something else could have happened.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same like he disconnected from the Force, and just to come back and be like, oh, I'm gonna. To me, like Dragon Ball Z, he's just not gonna come back and go Super Saiyan in the middle of this. Like,
no, I want my Jedi's to go. I know
you want your Jedi Super Saiyans.
That would have been so cool, man.
But at the same time, I the second he walked, I'm like, oh, he's not the same person. His goatee's dark and his hair's cut.
I just thought he cut his hair. He was like, hey, I haven't been out of the house in a while. I should probably cut my hair before I go see my sister.
Oh, no, he looked rough. He looked rough whenever, like, he was able to play both sides. The flashback Luke and that Luke had, like, the cleaner, like, less bags under his eyes. Kind of look. So I could tell right away, I'm like, oh, something's going on here.
So Chris, are we supposed to assume as the audience that projecting yourself across the galaxy is just so taxing on the soul and on the Jedi Force that just once you're done with it, it's just gonna wither you away and kill you? Or was this kind of Luke's decision to just kind of like go? Can a Jedi just kind of like just let himself go and die? I guess it's left open for interpretation, but I kind of felt like that trick was just too powerful to just only ever do once, you know?
Well, I think it was very taxing, but at the same time, Luke was like, I did all I could. Like, this is it. And, you know, no energy to go back. I mean, Ben Kenobi gave up, or like, not gave up, but became one with the Force by choice. Like, he disappeared before the lightsaber hit him in A New Hope.
Yeah, but I always kind of thought like maybe that's just how Jedis died. George Lucas was just like, well, I'm not just gonna show someone dismembered with their guts out in my PG movie. I think I'm just gonna show him disappear because of the Force. So I kind of thought maybe just like when you're so strong with the Force just knows when you're about to die, and it just kind of like just poofs you away just kind of like save you that gruesome death.
Well, but we saw, if you think of the prequels, a lot of Jedi died in the battle on Geonosis and against Darth Sidious, and they didn't poof away.
Yeah. So I guess we just still have some stuff to explain and explore, which is okay, because I do kind of like how we get to learn a little bit more about the Jedi in general. There was another power, Chris, that we saw a Jedi use in this movie that a lot of people are being very, very critical about, and I think you might be surprised that I wasn't too
was it the Star-Lord moment?
Yeah, I wasn't too upset about it.
So I don't.
Surprisingly,
again, Leia's not a Jedi; she's just a Force user, I think. So I think there's a difference. But yes, immediately after they blew me away, I'm like, oh my god, they killed Leia. Like, she pulled a Star-Lord on us and floated right back into the ship. And I'm like, well, that's pretty powerful. And yes, she is the daughter of, the most powerful Jedi, or I guess Sith, whatever, Force user in the universe up to that point. But that's the first time we get to see her use it. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot for your first time that we've seen it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea for her to use the Force, but maybe there just could have been a more subtle way to bring her back from the outer expanse of space into the ship. Like, maybe instead of her like actually waking up and just kind of like gliding over to the ship in a very weird posture, like, what if her eyes stayed closed, but maybe we just saw her fingers twitch a little bit, and then maybe like a piece of debris comes up behind her, and then we just kind of infer that she's controlling the debris and moving her into the ship. I feel like that could have just been a little bit more subtle way, because obviously it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I don't think we can say that those people are wrong. It's a very jarring moment, so maybe a little bit more subtlety there would have been a better decision.
I thought when I started, I thought she was going to form like a bubble around her to do it, but it is jarring. I think that's the best way to use it. It's not offensive to me, but it's jarring. That's the first time we see her use the Force in these sets of movies. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? The crate, I can't believe they waited for the Battle of Crate until the very end.
Yeah, I thought it was going to end there in space, and I was like, well, wait a minute. I remember seeing this trailer. Where is this planet with all the red dirt? Like, we have not seen that yet. There's no way they cut this out of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot going on. Like you said, it's a very dense movie. There's a lot going on, but it's probably like got one of the longest car chases in the history of cinema with the two spaceships. It's like, we're just gonna stay right out of range.
Yeah, I thought that was. I don't know.
There's
if
always a ticking clock, but that was a weird ticking clock choice.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The ticking clock is a good way to raise the stakes in your film, but it's kind of hard to feel the tenseness when you have these giant monolithic spaceships, one bigger than the other, cruising through the openness and vastness of space. And with no context around you, it just looks like they're almost stationary. Like, it's not like you don't have like asteroids like whizzing by them to look like it's a real chase scene.
Like two golf carts chasing each other through a golf field. Yeah. So, but that also kind of brings me up to the point of this Battle of Crate. Like, Rey kind of disappeared after her battle with Kylo on the ship. Like, she showed up on the Millennium Falcon shooting a couple things and raising rocks, but they kind of sidelined her in the last, not act, but maybe last 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, Deus Ex Falcon at the minute. I guess it's just because we all know what Rey, how she would have reacted if she would have saw Kylo there on the ground. So it's just like, we just got to get her away from him because she can't resist trying to murder this motherfucker. Yeah. So we got to get her as far away as possible.
I do have one scene in this movie, Mike, that made me immediately think of Batman v Superman, and that's not a compliment.
Okay,
but it's because after sitting down and thinking about it, I know why it's there. It's whenever she goes into the dark pit and touches the reflective glass.
Yeah, I was wondering when we were gonna get around to that.
So I get what it is. So it's her being able to view the past and future, because behind her is the future, and in front of her, like, So behind her was the future, in front of her was the past. She was looking backwards and seeing herself through time, is what it means. They don't explain this very well. I had to sit down and think about it and like, what the hell was going on here? But it was very jarring to come to that conclusion.
Well, so...
and the look of the movie jarred so heavily into that scene.
Yeah. Well, I totally get kind of maybe the weird psychedelic visuals of it. That didn't really bother me too much, just because we do kind of have that weird psychedelic moment when Luke is training with Yoda, and he kind of walks through the cave and he sees his own face behind his father's or Darth Vader's mask. So I thought that was kind of okay, because it just kind of felt like an homage to that moment. But there's a lot going on in this scene. It was the first time ever in the whole, I think maybe even franchise of Star Wars, where one of the characters is narrating what's happening. So I was very confused what's going on there. Like, Rey was like narrating her experience, and I was like, is she talking to herself? We don't see her speaking. So yeah, that was very confusing. But when you say she was looking at the past and looking at the future, I thought she saw that when she eventually touched Kylo Ren's hand, when she was in that little stone hut. I thought she said that's the moment where she saw his future.
She saw his future, but she didn't know what the past and future was. She was looking back to her past to figure out her parents in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you're looking at the past and future, you see all the iterations of it. So she was snapping her fingers then and then living through that moment and then watching the past go past her.
I think it's safe to say that it could have been explained.
It was very, very. It was a very abstract process. Do you believe her parents are nobodies, or do you think that was just something he told her to throw her off?
Well, I was just going to bring that up. I don't really know what to think, because I don't know if we can trust Kylo. He's being a little Loki.
He was being a dick in that moment.
Yeah, so maybe he's just trying to get her to do what he wants, but I'm totally okay with that decision. You know, we've talked about this in the past, ever since Force Awakens comes out. Wouldn't it be great if Rey wasn't related to a Skywalker or to a Kenobi or to a Solo, that she was just a one-off person? Because the galaxy's supposed to be gigantic. It's supposed to be this huge place where like tons of life is, so it's not inconceivable that any random person could become the hero once again outside of a Skywalker. So when we learn that her parents just kind of sold her and traded her, it's hard for me to buy when we don't have any sort of visual for it. Like, we get to see flashbacks to Kylo's past to see how he was made, but we don't really get a chance to see like Rey's parents. So if they want to double down and claim that Rey's parents aren't special, I think that is okay, and I'm okay with that, but I think we need to see it somehow or explore it a little bit more so we understand how Rey deals with the idea that her parents are never coming back. I don't think we can just go into the third movie with her she has accepted that her parents are gone and she's just only a child.
She's got to visit the graveyard. I think that would be, if they're going to stick with this, visit the graveyard maybe.
Yeah, like maybe she goes back to Jakku, and while she's overlooking the grave, maybe some villager walks by and it's just like, "Oh, I knew your parents." I know that's a little contrived,
they could be Force ghosts if she's so powerful with the Force. They could be heavy Force users as well.
I guess that's possible.
I mean, they don't have to be Jedi or anything in particular, but they could have stumbled upon it, because she is very strong in the Force, as we find out, and there's very natural abilities with her. So. Yeah.
But
it was good seeing the green lightsaber in this movie. I'm gonna say that. That was a good feeling.
Yeah, that was cool. I love the little fight that Rey and Luke had on the island with like the lightning. I like that moment of just everyone's pissed off and they're just starting to swing shit. Sticks versus sticks, and then she busts out that lightsaber. So that was really cool. Where did the green lightsaber pop up?
Whenever he was about to kill Kylo.
Oh yeah, that's right, in the flashback. I was gonna say,
and then he was looking at it in his hand, and it was the original one from Return of the Jedi. I'm like, oh, that's my favorite lightsaber. Oh
yeah, it's so cool because it has that weird kind of like that neck that kind of gets small and it goes up. Oh, I always thought it was kind of like
it's got a very unique style. You know it when you see it, man. Like
exactly.
His original blue one's very steely and like whatever. It's a lightsaber.
It's a little too chrome. I like how it's a little bit more industrial, but I think kind of one of the last things that I think Star Wars really needs to nail down, and I think this has been a problem in pretty much every Star Wars movie, that someone needs to take the time or find an eloquent way to describe to us the size of this galaxy, the span of the resistance, the size of the bad guys, because I have like no idea what's going on here. Like at one point in this movie, the resistance felt like it was down to like 4 people. I was just like, okay, really? There's 4 people fighting this fight? Like they are literally dwindling down to nothing, but it's hard for me to feel what they're fighting for. It always feels like they're fighting for each other and for their comrades around them, but
we just see the battles.
Yeah, like they blew up like 5 planets in The Force Awakens, you know, like it seems like there's no one left to fight for out there, people. It seems like they all died. So like it almost seems like instead of going to an empty planet with an empty abandoned base, maybe you have to hold up on a populated planet and your job is to protect this planet from getting destroyed. It's just like, I feel like I need to see some innocent civilians that need the protection. And I guess we saw that a little bit on the casino planet with those slave kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need some sort of scope. I need some sort of scale here. I think we're well beyond the original 3 movies where this kind of needs to be explained. I think if you're just kind of telling a little isolated story of like a Skywalker becoming a hero, I don't think you need to explore those things back in, you know, the 80s when the original movies were pinned. But now I think we're getting to a point where Benicio Del Toro brings up like, hey, there's lots of shades of gray out there. See these weapon dealers? They make X-Wings and TIE fighters. They don't care if who's fighting and who's winning. They just want to sell this stuff. So if we're bringing in that element, I almost need like a number, like how many planets out there are good, how many planets out there are bad, like what's the weight here? Like, are we ever gonna destroy the bad guys, or is this just gonna be a constant grind of killing for the eternity? Like, I know a finish line in the real world is not realistic, but this is Star Wars. I think it's okay if our fantasy movie has a theoretical finish line out there.
So, I mean, yes and no. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, I guess. But if you have to applaud the prequels for anything, it at least made you feel like there were planets out there with people and stuff going on. Whereas, you know, the original trilogy didn't have that luxury of showing you. Like, we got to see Tatooine twice. We didn't even know Alderaan before it blew up, you know. So at least the prequels gave us planets with people, and we knew what was going on and how many. Kind of like a number, like, yeah, there's a lot of planets out there. There's a lot of creatures. Like, here's the Republic and the Senate. You know, like, you get to see some of these people, what's going on. So
yeah, maybe like a visual. I know this.
It could be them coming. It could be them coming together at the end of the next one. Like, you know, these are the people who stand for freedom and the people, and they have to give all their energy to Goku to form the spirit bomb.
Yeah, galaxy. because Leia says like, oh, put out my beacon. That's the one that'll be the most known. But it's just like,
and nobody called, nobody answered.
Yeah, like, well, where are these good guys? Like, why aren't they fighting? You know, what qualms do they have against going out there? So yeah, I think that since so much of this movie is organized around a literal war, a Star War, if you will, I think the war needs a little bit of explanation, and I think that's fair to ask.
Yeah, we've seen battles, so let's see the war finally. I agree. I agree with that. It needs to be on a more. I guess we had some locales on this one, but it didn't feel like they were lived-in locales. Crate was an abandoned planet. Octu was just Luke and the caretakers and Porgs. Canto Bight was a bunch of, you know, rich people paralleling our own government and economy right now. So like that one, but that wasn't enough. Everything else was just on ships in the cold, you know, darkness of space. So I agree wholeheartedly on that. We need more. We need to feel more for these things going forward, rather than just the 8 people we see fighting the battles.
Yeah, I am not surprised that we ended up talking about this movie for over an hour, because I knew that was going to happen. This had so much going on to it. I think I would recommend this movie to anybody just on the fact it has one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a science fiction movie and in a Star Wars movie in a long time. There's a whole lot to love in this movie, and there's some things that, you know, are just kind of upsetting. This is kind of one of those situations where if this movie came out standalone on its own, was the first entry into a series, and we've never heard of Star Wars before, I think we'd be a lot more lenient on it, but you can't ignore the fact that Star Wars has just been around for my entire lifetime and other people's lifetime. So people are always going to kind of come in with their own baggage, their own expectations. Yeah. You're never going to be able to please everybody, which is maybe that's a good thing. I was actually, even though I was upset with some of the decisions Rian Johnson made in this movie, I am still very excited for his standalone trilogy that he's going to make, because he doesn't have to worry about any of this fucking baggage. He doesn't have to worry about Luke's legacy. He doesn't have to worry about, any of this stuff making fan service of whether he decides to oh god, who died in this movie that we had no chance to feel for? Akbar. Yeah, he doesn't have to worry about how he handles Akbar. He just gets to go make his own Jedi story on another side of the galaxy, either in the future or in the past, and he just doesn't have to worry about it. And I'm looking forward to that. So I definitely think there's light at the end of this tunnel.
He did create a lot of new, I guess, force powers for people in this one as well that we haven't seen before. So if he is going to dive into anything when force powered, he at least has the ability to create even more powers that he needs, see fit, which is cool. And God help us that he puts more creative scenes like the light speed jump in other ones. Not the exact thing, but I want to see him, do more of his thing where he's like, we need a light speed jump through all these ships and make it like heart stopping, because that is one way I would describe that movie. That is heart stopping moment right there in the theater. I really hope everyone else experiences that like we did, because that is the highlight of this movie. I'm on the other side of it. I get there a lot of people want to feel that Star Wars is theirs, and going forward we can't rely on the tropes of Star Wars time and time again. Like, we have to tell these stories and we have to have these characters and these beats. So I applaud this movie for being different and giving me what I needed from the Last Jedi or the Force Awakens, because when I watched The Force Awakens, I'm like, I could just go watch A New Hope, and I've seen it, and I feel better about A New Hope than I do this one. So with this one, I'm like, this is different. I can't go to Empire or Return or even any of the prequels, Attack of the Clones, and see this movie. Like, this is a movie in and of itself. At the end of the day.
Yeah, only Star Wars could ever be this decisive, for sure.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a lot of people talking about it, but I think it sounds like from both of us, go watch it. That's what we're saying. Go see it. I recommend theaters. Mike, you recommend theaters?
Yeah, go check it out in theaters. You always get more quality and more detail. I always forget about that. I always forget the amount of just resolution that you get from a screen. And the perfect example is I got to see the Infinity War trailer before this. And in all of the trailers, even the highest quality 1080p uncompressed trailers I've seen for Infinity War, at the very end when Cap is running with the crew towards the screen, it's still hard to see what's on his hands. It kind of looks like some sort of weird, maybe some sort of gauntlets that from like Wakanda, but on the big screen, I can see those clear as day what they look like. They are definitely some sort of gauntlet with like little kind of ornate claws on the end. Definitely tech he probably picked up from, I think, Black Panther's sister. Who knows? We'll probably talk about this in our news episode.
That's another
movie. So make sure you're subscribed. So yeah, just go for the quality and the majesty of being on the big screen, and go soon before people start bringing their babies to the theater, because that usually happens.
Did you have babies in your theater?
There was one baby in the back, and I was like, who does this? Who brings their child to a Thursday night opening of a Star Wars movie? One that's young enough to cry. You save that shit for Saturday afternoon. That's where your child belongs when it comes to the theater.
Honestly,
Saturday
who throws
afternoon.
a shoe? Honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, Mike, I think we have reached the end of our Star Wars journey for this year. Last review of the year. We will be back, I guess, for Black Panther. I know, at least in February. Maybe Runaways if that wraps up. So look, subscribe for our more reviews. But Mike, if people want to find out what you're doing in the meantime, where can they find you at, buddy?
Well, as always, you can follow me at Mike Royer Design on Twitter and Instagram, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to follow you, see what you're up to, where can they get that?
You can find me on Twitter at Valdan, Valdan. You can see the picture I posted on there from Instagram where we were the first people in the theater, and I'm like, we gotta hurry up and take this picture before anyone else walks in.
Yeah. Sir, can you just stand back for a moment? I'm trying to take a selfie.
Excuse me, people. We need this theater for a second. So we posted that out there. You can head over to Comic UI, read some stuff there. We put up some videos for Marvel, listen to other show films on chats, or head to DNN on YouTube and see the videos I do for the destination. So there's that. If people want to know more about our weekly show, this is a review episode. People want to hear our news episodes. Mike, where can people find us at?
Well, please visit superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show, and to also check out our show notes. So when you're listening to an episode and we're talking about the news, we put all of our notes in there, and you can click on all that stuff. Make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to be talking about a crazy trailer for Peter Jackson's new movie, which was attached to the Last Jedi, and it's not out. You can't go find it on YouTube right now, at least at this very moment.
That's a rare moment.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even in my movies. Now I'm mad.
Yeah, so I got to see it. So Chris is going to try to see it before we record the news episode on Sunday. So, so you're going to want to subscribe and hear about that, because it looks freaking crazy. But you can find us on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher. You can subscribe and get us right in your email inbox every week. And you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We got a new t-shirt design up in our store, so you can go check that out at superheroslate.com/store. You can get that on like a shirt, a hoodie, a mug, a notebook.
I tell you what, I got mine on a long sleeve shirt, and it's specifically for our reviews. So I'm really excited to be wearing that.
Well, there you go, Chris. I can always count on you to support us.
Yeah, look, if anyone's about self-promotion, by God, it's me. So,
if you like what you're hearing, we would love if you would review the show wherever you listen to it. We really love that appreciation. That's what makes us come back every week, multiple times a week, to do this show. We love providing a service out there for you guys to keep up on the news and to hear our thoughts on all the movies that come out. If you want to be a super fan of Superhero Slate, it's super simple. All you got to do is just share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here next week. And we will be here for the rest of eternity until we turn into a Force ghost and disappear.
That's right. Until Mike projects himself across the country into my office to slap me or something weird. So,
there we go.
All right. Well, I guess we will catch you guys in our news episode. See you guys then.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
Is it okay if I don't have an answer until like the day before?